Hello, HMS Bobcats. Mr. Flato here. Welcome back to another great week at the Helena Middle School. Finally got my laptop fixed. Been working on this brand new Bob lesson here for a couple weeks. This Bob lesson was inspired to me by a seventh grade student that I was talking to recently. Like so many other seventh, eighth grade middle school students, was having some friendship issues. And friendships are such an important part of life and humanity. I think if there's one thing the pandemic has taught us, it's how important friendships are, how important it is to be able to connect with our people. That was hands down the most depressing part of the pandemic for me. So much of middle school is learning those social skills, learning how to build friendships, learning how to manage friendships, learning how to manage conflict, so on and so forth. I took that idea that I was talking with a student with, and I combined it with my love of animals, um, our previous principal, Mr. McKay, shout out Mr. McKay, and I used to talk about animals all the time, how they're so closely connected to human beings. And I got thinking about how we treat our dogs versus our cats, how cats treat us versus how dogs treat us as pets. And I had this idea of things that I see all the time where middle schoolers get friendship stuff wrong, and kind of had this idea of relating it to cats and dogs and pets. And so I hope it makes sense for many of you. Some of you, maybe it won't, but there is a real connection that I wanted to share with you, and hopefully helping you get better at your friendships and learning more about friendships as we go through middle school and life. So buckle up. Let's get rock and roll on this Bob lesson. I think the title of this is going to be Cats, Dogs, and Friendships. All right, HMS Bobcats, here we go. Rock and roll on this new Bob lesson. As I said in the intro, it's going to be titled Cats, Dogs, and Friendships. But first, let's be our best this week at HMS. Let's be Bob. Let's be safe. Let's be responsible. Let's be respectful. Let's be a learner. All right, let's start with a base level of understanding that I think we can all agree on, and that is friendships are everything. If there's one thing the pandemic reminded us of, and I talked about this in the intro, it's that we're social beings, social creatures. We literally strive and survive off having meaningful relationships. And middle school time is a pivotal time when we are really starting to discover and seek those meaningful friendships and relationships that fit who we are evolving to be in life. What makes this tricky when we get into middle school is it coincides with the developmental stage of identity versus role confusion. That is, usually about summer before seventh grade into eighth grade. Who am I becoming? And figuring that out. And how do I find those people who are becoming the same as me, that have the same interests, the same values, that share a similar personality and identity? Virtually every one of us has the same goal: find a small circle of meaningful and authentic friendships, relationships that share those same interests, values, personality, and identity that I have. And on the other half of that, virtually everyone has the same fear of being, quote unquote, left out in the cold alone. That's like the worst thing that can happen. So, what makes friendships challenging at this age? Because of these facts, middle school friendship groups are constantly refining and changing. And I for sure see this all the time in eighth grade. And this can be mentally and emotionally a really hard thing for students to deal with. We see alliances that are being formed, and everybody's trying to form those alliances. And when those alliances don't happen and we're having a hard time with it, and it's somebody we want to be friends with or we are friends with, they start forming alliances with other people, that's when jealousy happens. And virtually every one of us has the same fear, like I talked about the last slide, being left out in the cold and alone. So, what ends up happening? A lot of times, because of this fact, a lot of students make the mistake of trying to control another person, trying to be manipulative behind that other person's back or with other people in order to secure that friendship or that relationship that they really want. And they do this in an attempt to try to avoid losing that friendship or losing that person out of their life. And when this happens, it's not how friendship should be. This is not authentic relationships, and this is not how authentic relationships and friendships work. And oftentimes, if anything, it ends up blowing up in kids' face, and it ends up having the opposite effect. And what you end up doing is pushing some people away. So you may be asking yourself, well, what does this have to do with cats and dogs? Cats and dogs are two of the most famous and popular pets that we have in our Western culture society. And if you've ever noticed, our interaction and our relationship with cats and dogs are very different. And let's start with cats. Cats don't take commands. They will come cuddle up in your lap on their own terms. If you've ever tried to go get a cat, and I know all cats are a little bit different, and I'm going off my own childhood experiences though, you go to get a cat and you want to cuddle with it, it's going to run away. They will come up and they will cuddle with you kind of on their own terms. Cats appreciate the freedom to roam and do their thing. I remember coming in at my old house, and sometimes the neighbor's cat would want to come in my garage, and I'd have to make sure I didn't hit it with my car, run it over. Cats roam and they do their own thing. Cats don't want to be controlled. You go to try to grab a cat and make it sit in your lap so you can pet it, it's going to squirm and it's going to run off. It may hiss at you. It's like cats don't want to be controlled. They want to do their own thing and have that power and control. Cats need to still feel somewhat wild in their exploration and primitive hunting of birds. I would find dead birds all the time in my yard or dead mice because the cats would go out and kill them. And that's what cats need. That's what cats need in their animal instinct to go do their own thing. Let's look at dogs, however. And I have a German Shepherd um, named Pritz, and so I'm kind of going off how things are with my German Shepherd. But dog and Pritz lives to take commands and to please my owner. Pritz wants to take commands. She wants to please. She wants to go for walks. She has a drive and she wants to perform her drive and perform it to the best of her ability. They follow their owners around and are fearful of being left. My dog will follow me all over into the bathroom, all over the place. When I go to leave, Fritz gives me the puppy dog eyes through the window, like I can't believe you're leaving me. They'll sit, shake, fetch, roll over, like on command. Fritz sit, Fritz stay, Fritz shake, go fetch this ball. That's what they live for. They live to please their owners and to make them happy. And they actively want to take part in every aspect of your life. Now, if you think about this, friendships should be like relationships with cats. If you treat your friendships like you do your dog in these characteristics that I explained, that is very unhealthy. If you treat your friendships like you do with cats, this is a very healthy thing. So let's kind of put this together in the end and kind of formulate my ADD thoughts and kind of hit home some bullet points. And the bullet point is, and if you take one thing from this Bob lesson, I want it to be this: genuine and healthy relationships are based in freedom. Give your relationships the time and the space to choose you. Authentic relationships cannot be built or maintained through manipulation or control. And that is a lot of things that I see sometimes when friendships are going sour in my office. It's kids that don't want to lose that relationship. They don't give that friend enough time to breathe and enough time to have their freedom, and they try to manipulate them and they try to control them or manipulate and control the people around them. Your entire focus in a friendship should be based on the energy and effort you put forth into that given relationship or into that given friendship. At the end of the day, that's the only thing you can control is how you show up in that friendship. Do you put the time, effort, energy? Are you kind? Are you thoughtful? Are you compassionate? Are you a good listener? All those friendship characteristics I've talked about on previous Bob lessons, that's the only thing you can ever control. Genuine relationships aren't built on ultimatums. That is another thing I see. Either you do this or that. If you don't do this, then that. That's not healthy. That's not how genuine relationships are built. Genuine relationships also don't keep score. And what I'm talking about when I say keep score, I'm talking about, well, I did this for you, therefore you need to do this for me. Or I did this 3 days in a row for you, you need to match that and do 3 days in a row for me. No, you can't force and manipulate friendships. Healthy friendships are based on equality, where the other person recognizes the effort you put in and they choose, they have the freedom to choose to match your effort and energy. And I think that's the key thing I'm trying to hit home here today. Finally, genuine relationships are built on mutual understanding, mutual effort, and respect. Again, you can only control the understanding, effort, and respect you put in that friendship or that relationship. And you got to give other people the time, space to make their own minds up on their own that they want to reciprocate that. Mr. Flato, what happens if I do all these things and I put in and I do the effort and energy and I do everything correctly and I'm not getting that back in return? Well, then that relationship may be not for you at this given point in your life. And that's part of the refinement process. Hope you guys enjoyed this Bob lesson.
All right, that brings us to this week's Jelly Bean Question of the Week winners: Zaylee Wertel, Madeline Schnicken, Amaya Mattioli, Anson Segrest, Harper Rogers, and Parker Wallen. The answer was FSS, meaning Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Those 3 letters were days of the week that went in chronological order. All right, this week's Jelly Bean question of the week. When can you add 2 to 11 and get 1 as the correct answer? If you think you know the answer, you outside-the-box thinkers, submit your answer to the Bob Box. Get it turned in by the end of the week. And tune in next week to see if you're a winner. All right, Bobcats, let's make it a great second quarter. Fresh start for everybody.